sticks and stones will never change or build so straight and blind. The more we learn, the less we lose. We can run to the streets, defeat the enemies, or we can drown the sea with freedom voices. If there was a
They say that a journey of 1,000 miles begins with one single step. But maybe it begins with one single start. Turn, bump, grind, pit, pass, win.
Big Rhodes, the winner! That's crazy what happens on the last lap here.
And celebration. In NASCAR, that journey starts here. I am the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series. I am NASCAR. There's a reputation on the track, being built this very minute.
He's made his own history!
One that embraces the crazy.
Oh my goodness!
The fast. And the unpredictable.
Everett's gonna win it at the line!
It looks into the eye of the competition and screams, bring it. Loud enough so the whole world will see it coming. I am the NASCAR Xfinity Series. I am NASCAR.
Good evening, race fans, and welcome to iRacing's coverage of the second round of the 2022 eNASCAR College iRacing Series powered by NACE Starleague. Live from iRacing's virtual Charlotte Motor Speedway in Concord, North Carolina, with a Visit Myrtle Beach 120. James Pike here alongside Justin Prince, ready to bring you all the action from the second race, where we're going to give out some scholarship money. We're going to see a lot of great mile-and-a-half intermediate track racing too. Charlotte's put on some great shows with these trucks, the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series throughout the years, Justin. I think tonight should be no different.
Absolutely. This is a track that really tests competitors' abilities to be able to maintain tires, but also make sure they're able to keep up on the pace. This is not the easiest place to try and sort out. This could be a true test for some of the drivers and their ability to drive on the speedways.
Tire wear matters more than you think here. That'll be something we'll watch over the course of the evening. But before we go racing, let's get a word from our friends at Visit Myrtle Beach.
Hey, it's Jonathan Paris, Executive Director of Sports Tourism with Visit Myrtle Beach. We're excited to present today's race and wish the best of luck to everyone competing. Myrtle Beach, South Carolina is home to 60 miles of beautiful beaches, world-class golf, loads of dining options, and a wide array of activities for everyone. And Myrtle Beach is no stranger to college sports. In fact, we host several major collegiate sporting events each year and are ready and looking forward to the next wave of esports events. There really is something for everyone at the beach.
Fun place, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Been a few times myself, and a popular beach destination for a lot of folks who live in the Charlotte area, incidentally enough. And speaking of Charlotte, Justin Prince, maybe time we talk about this track a little bit. There's a lot to discuss about Charlotte Motor Speedway. Yes, it's a mile and a half. Yes, we've got a few of them on the calendar in real life, but this one has a few quirks and features that make it different from some of the other mile and a halves out there.
Well, first things first, 24 degrees of banking around the corners, 5 degrees down the straightaways here at this facility that opened in 1960. And keep in mind, some of those quirks include the tunnel that can provide some bumps, particularly into turn 1, where if you go too quickly into the entry, you could snap loose if you aren't careful enough. As well, it's very easy to burn up your tires and hit the safer barrier coming out of turn 4, so expect drivers to really try and manage that throughout the night.
The other interesting piece that I think is worth mentioning, the radius of turns 1 and 2 is greater than that of turns 3 and 4. It's actually wider over 1 and 2 than it is in 3 and 4. And you see that with the way these trucks will race off of turn 2. It's big, wide, sweeping exit onto the back straightaway, but very narrow as you enter turn 3, and especially coming out of turn 4. How many times have we seen, both in the sim and real life, Justin Prince, drivers knock the fence down on corner exit and damage their vehicle?
Plenty of times, to say the very least, but these drivers, they look hungry to try and fight around this racetrack tonight, because managing the tire and make sure you don't go into the wall will be critical.
All fighting for a piece of the $4,500 pie that is going to go out to the top 3 finishes this evening. Let's take a look at our starting grid. Pole sitter for this evening, driver out of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series, Logan Clampett from Saddleback Community College. He's joined on the front row by Stephen Wilson out of the University of Iowa, the Hawkeyes. Daniel Botafuco from Rutgers University in New Jersey is joined on the outside by Andre Castro, who starts 4th, the Maroons of the University of Chicago. Trey Normile will roll off from P5 out of Northern Arizona University. Santiago Tires from the University of North Carolina at Charlotte starts 6th. Nick Short from Folsom Lake College, the Falcons, starts in 7th. Ryan Doucette will roll off 8th, representing the University of Southern Maine. The last 2 drivers in the top 10, Michael Conzi out of the University of Mississippi and Omar Tiano of the University of Wisconsin at Milwaukee.
University of North Carolina at Williamson-based driver Jack Painter starts in row 6 alongside Will Farmer from Middlesex County College. Behind them in row 7, it's Reese Bayham from Auburn University and the winner from Daytona from Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University in Colson Saleh. Row 8 features Wyatt Harvey from Butler University alongside Blake Bottoms from Stanley Community College. Row 9 features Derek Jennings from Grand Canyon University and the Canadian Anthony Keys from the University of Toronto, Scarborough. Rounding out the top 20 tonight is Hagen Johnson from Clemson University. He'll start alongside Austin Farr from the University of Tennessee.
The old rivals of UT. Christopher Schella will start from 21st. He's from Vanderbilt University in Nashville. Brett Suggs from High Point University out of North Carolina rolls off at the outside of row 11. Row 12, you'll find Alex Cullix of SUNY Rockland Community College and Colson Phelps from Iowa State University. Row 13, John Hall out of the Massachusetts Maritime Academy starts alongside Liam Sheen, who rolls off 26th for the University of Wisconsin at Stevens Point. 27th on the grid is Thomas Toomey out of the University of Virginia. Joined to his outside is Christina Ryan from Ohio University in Athens, Ohio. Connor Shong of Lansing Community College and Matt Kemp of Siena Heights University complete our top 30.
Nick Robinson from East Carolina University starts in row 16. He'll be joined by the University of Texas Rio Grande University driver and Francisco Del Real. Then it's Alex Alvenar from Binghamton University starting alongside Jack Coyne. He is from Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. Chris Fritz in row 18 from University of Delaware will be starting alongside a well-known driver from FAU in Brandon Mckissick. Once the final 3 starters is Tyler Glass. He'll be from Purdue University tonight. Connor Okresic is from the University of Colorado Boulder. And the last starter from Grand Valley State, is Aiden Doyle.
We know that the university ties are strong amongst the drivers, also strong amongst some of the staffers in iRacing as well. Special shout out to production team member Cisco Scaramuza, who is an alum of Butler University, so he may be a little bit biased cheering for Wyatt Harvey and singing the Butler War song, but we'll see how it goes for Wyatt. We'll see how it goes for everybody else as we move to our Logitech G race analysis, Justin.
80 laps on the docket tonight. That's 120 miles. The pit road can be treacherous to get into at 45 miles per hour. The delta's up to 48 seconds with 3 tire sets expected to be available. You'll window 50 to 55 laps max. Now, with the NACE Starleague weather conditions, it's fairly hot today at 78 degrees Fahrenheit. The winds at 2 miles an hour to the north. 105 degrees is the track temperature. Partly cloudy skies here in this late afternoon start.
We get set for round 2 of the eNASCAR College iRacing Series powered by NACE Starleague. 374 drivers attempted to qualify for this 39 truck field, representing 259 unique institutions across the United States and Canada. So numbers up. I think we're up about 100 drivers and just north of 50 schools from round 1. Good to see that this eNASCAR College iRacing Series powered by NACE Starleague is growing. And our anticipation is growing for the green flag, which we'll get momentarily. Pace car will come off of pit road, and Logan Clampett will lead us to green. The man from Saddleback Community College steps on the gas, and we are underway with the Visit Myrtle Beach 120 from the virtual Charlotte Motor Speedway. Already everybody trying to fight down to the inside. You can see Steven Wilson's the only one hung up top within the top 5, and we're just now completing that first lap. But I think that says a lot about what these drivers think of tire wear and how important that's going to be. You want to be on that inside lane to shorten the distance you drive around the track lap after lap and ultimately try and save your tires over the course of what could be a long green flag run.
One of the drivers amongst the top 5, Santiago Tiras, who's known to be quick tonight, was one of those who mentioned if you overdrive on entry, you burn up the tires. But I think a change has happened. Castro just drove by Clampett, who ended up losing the bottom there, James. The tire wear is going to be critical, and I think in groupings like that, in switches, you'll see drivers will have to think, do I try and fight this on the high side, or do you have this?
Trouble. They're just a little bit further back. Steven Wilson was the first to go sideways, and the yellow flag comes out. Incidentally, though, looks like he didn't get the worst of that because there were more trunks that went around behind him, and we'll see if we can't get a replay in a few moments to show you exactly what happened. But I think we all saw Wilson was dead sideways in the middle of turns 1 and 2. My hunch is that there may have been some contact involved, Justin, but we'll let the replay tell all.
And what did you mention about drivers trying to get to the bottom? That's the shortest distance around, but it's also the best way to try and save tires. You try and run the middle line, it's doable, but you end up having to push hard, and it ends up burning up your Goodyear Eagles with these NASCAR capable trucks. You'll see, for example, Wilson lost the bottom coming into the entry. Tiras tried to fill the hole, and Wilson, just for him, tried to slam the door shut. It ends up collecting a few trucks as a result.
Having had the chance to look at this replay a few times myself, I also wouldn't rule out the possibility that Ryan Doucette got into the back of Santiago Tiras and then caused the chain reaction that got into Wilson. I think, from what I could tell, that Tiras did not expect the bump to be so big from Doucette on corner entry, threw him off, tweaked his corner entry a little bit, got into Wilson. He wasn't expecting it, so I think it's just a chain reaction. But again, back to the original point that you made, as we see some drivers come down pit road, all about trying to get down to the bottom, and for some folks, maybe all about trying to get some tire wear taken care of by getting a new set of Goodyear Eagles on their trucks.
It's also a track where if you end up getting significant damage, you end up feeling the wrath of it, so to speak, because it's an aero-sensitive track. It can really impact you long run pace in particular, and depending on where the damage is on the fender, it can end up affecting how your tire wear is the rest of the way.
So as we run under caution, going to get a good look here at your leader, Andre Castro, out of the University of Chicago. First time we've had a U Chicago driver in this field, and Castro going to have a lot of fun. But let's get a word with Steven Wilson before we go back to Green Flag Racing. Steven, what happened from your perspective there?
We got nailed from the car behind us. That's what happened. I don't know what happened stack up there, but yeah, we'll see how killed it is. Coming out, fixed all the damage.
You worried about having to make a run through the field and losing the track position even with the damage?
Well, I don't really know how much I can do with damage. I don't know how much I could have done without damage driving through the field, but we'll give it all we got and see what happens.
Steven Wilson out of the University of Iowa going to get back lined up with this field and get everybody back bunched together. As you see, your leader, Andre Castro, was going to mention here before we go Green Flag Racing, he's a senior majoring in economics at U Chicago alongside Logan Clampett to his outside from Saddleback College. Logan, of course, with plenty of experience in the eNASCAR coca-cola iRacing series, and everybody racing for a piece of the $4,500 pie that we're giving away in this race. $13,500 given away over the course of 3 races in the spring. $4,500 per event, $3,000 to the winner, $1,000 to second, $500 to third, all in scholarship money. So racing for tuition. This is something that I wish I could have done.
It can really help you go the far way further, James, for schooling.
And if you want to keep up with all the latest news and updates from eNASCAR, pull out your phones and scan that QR code at the bottom right of your screen and sign up today. Courtesy of NASCAR and iRacing, the official simulation partner of NASCAR. Green flag going to come here on lap 7 of 80. Not too much, I think, that we learned so far as who's got a good long run truck, but we did learn, I think, pretty quickly, Justin, the importance of trying to get down to the inside lane.
And we've seen that with Castro trying to dart his way underneath Clampett early, and Clampett knew if he tried to fight it high line, it ends up hurting him in the long run. It's very early still, James. So expect some of the give and take to still be there for drivers to figure out, okay, is this worth trying to fight for, with plenty to go in the action.
Waiting for Castro to step on the gas pedal and get us back going in this Visit Myrtle Beach 120 once more. He takes off, and he got a good restart, cleared Botafuco by maybe a truck length or two before they even get off into turn one. So Botafuco's going to have to race Logan Clampett for second.
Yeah, Clampett's going to really want that clean air, because on top of holding the bottom, clean air's critical, but Clampett lost the bottom through turns 1 and 2. Omar Diallo, he was considered to be one of the contenders, nearly got past him there out of turn 2.
Diallo has plenty of speed. He's another one of these drivers who might not have Coke experience, but he's one who's been around the iRacing community for a long time, knows how to get the most out of these trucks that are featured in the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series in real life. And in that sense, not a huge surprise to see him running up towards the front of this field so early.
Yeah, he's very well regarded when it comes to experience through the qualifying rankings to make his way into eNASCAR competition. Works with some of those drivers at that level as well. And you build that rapport that can really help you in the long haul when it comes to your career. But one driver I'm seeing moving ahead is that 97, trying to sort things out, as well as Diallo you see on board, trying to figure out what his game plan is going to be to try and see if they're going to scrap or if he's going to be able to just save the tires.
Good look at Diallo and his on board representing the University of Wisconsin at Milwaukee. The Panthers trying to race up into the top 3, just trailing Logan Clampett there. And I think everybody sort of got the memo from that initial start where everybody just wants to tuck in line and I think click off a few laps, at least in the top 10. But look a little bit further back, take a peek out his rear view mirror, just like he's seeing at his computer. You can see it's a little bit wilder once you get back towards maybe 5th, 6th, 7th or so.
Yeah, you see some of that there. Normal months, those really getting shuffled around and bounced around, it seems, in the 85 machine. Started in the 5th position, was involved with some contact in that first few lap incident, and he's really feeling the effects of the damage now on both sides of the truck. That's seen him getting freight train from the bottom side. And you just see that importance there too, James, just in seeing and watching along with that respective lap, how he knows, even with the damage, he can't afford to lose the bottom because it's going to force drivers up top and force themselves to use up their equipment.
Yeah, big battles here. Good look at some of the folks fighting on the edge of the top 20 out of Middlesex College. You've got Will Farmer, Trey Mile from Northern Arizona is there. You've got East Carolina in the mix with Nick Robinson. Too. Look at O'Mile making it 3 wide to the inside. And there's Steven Wilson, who we saw get caught up in that incident just a few laps ago, already trying to make a charge back through the field. He's up to 24th, looking for 23rd now as they all clear Hagen Johnson.
Hagen Johnson also just getting to the wall, it looks like, with a bit of contact in the upper groupings because they've been fighting 2-3 wide at some parts because of that importance of track position. Some of the drivers, I think, knowing the qualifying performances, knew it was going to be a tough task to cut through the pack. And some of those with strong sim racing experience, like Liam Sheen, like Connor Sean, amongst those who are cutting the way forward up 15 and 16 spots respectively in the mix of this grouping.
Big issue, and this is right where a lot of those trucks were fighting. We had just mentioned it a few laps ago. Grand Canyon University driver in trouble, and a lot of other folks too. We'll get a look at the replay, see what happened, Justin.
Yeah, and this, I think, was inevitable with some of the battling going on with how aggressive a couple drivers had been getting towards the edges of the top 10. And I think it was just the mixture in that battle going on for 10th where you end up losing the bottom and someone tries to get over aggressive, tries to send it in. you end up seeing a bit of contact, and it's just that tough situation where you need to be aware of what's going on and have the space at the same time to be able to check up, James.
I have a sense of what might have happened. I want to see one more replay just to make sure that I've got my bearings right on this, but I think I know what the story is, but we're going to find out what the story is after we take a word from our partners. You're watching coverage of the eNASCAR College iRacing Series powered by NACE Starleague, live from iRacing's virtual Charlotte Motor Speedway. More action after this.
Dinner's ready.
We've learned to savor the moments that were always there. And they never tasted this good.
SCW is the official technology VAR of NASCAR. Whether you're looking to outfit the office with the latest technology from your favorite brands like HP, Lenovo, or Logitech, or you're wanting to race like the pros with a full cockpit on iRacing, just like the SCW sponsored driver Taylor Hurst. SCW is where America gets IT. Shop now at scw.com.
Catch all that?
I'm ready to rip somebody's freaking head off.
Or that? Well, get ready for this, and a whole lot of this. I am Full Throttle. I am NASCAR.
This is your chance to get behind the wheel. The opportunity to race just like the pros. From the grassroots levels, where we all got our start, to the most popular race cars on the planet. From the fairgrounds of Nashville to the high banks of Daytona, to tracks that will never be forgotten. Realistic driving, intense competition, all from the comfort of your own home. This is the ultimate motorsports simulation. This is iRacing.
Tonight's broadcast of the eNASCAR College iRacing Series powered by NACE Starleague is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of eNASCAR. By Logitech G. Through design, engineering, and a love of driving games, Logitech G takes racing simulation to another level. Logitech G, the official wheel and pedals of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. By SCW. Whether you're looking to outfit the office or race like the pros, SCW is where America gets IT. Shop now at scw.com. And by Play Seats, the official racing chair of eNASCAR. Welcome back to coverage of the Visit Myrtle Beach 120. Here's the replay, Justin Prince, of what brought us out under the yellow flag for the second time this evening.
You see right there, Liam Sheen tries to duck underneath as the 55 opens it up, and the GCU truck, gets shuffled up to the racetrack, and just not a great situation in turn for the 15 machine. Just the situation, you open up the bottom, someone's going to try and set it on in, and it also doesn't help that Sheen was carrying a lot more entry speed down that blue line towards the apex.
You feel for Derek Jennings because there's absolutely nothing that he could have done in that GCU truck. Just was the innocent bystander of the contact that happened underneath him, and he ended up being the pinball or the accordion that gets set up under the fence. And even though he didn't really have anything to do with the initial incident, he ends up with the worst damage of this. We're going to get a look from onboard Nick Robinson's truck.
Yeah, not a lot of time to react, especially when you have to slam of the brakes like this. Any further to the left there, James, and that front nose ends up getting crumpled and ends up hurting him the rest of the way. Instead, clean truck, happy driver.
I'd say that's taking advantage of the principle of what goes up must come down eventually, just with the way the banking works, or gravity and all. These trucks will slide back down to the apron, and if you're far enough behind the incident, you can get on the brakes, and even if a truck gets sent up into the fence, it'll sort of self-clear, and you'll have room to roam. As we'll keep our eyes on Logan Clampett from Saddleback College, who leads us to green, coming to lap 19 of 80 in this Visit Myrtle Beach 120 for the eNASCAR College iRacing Series, powered by NACE Starleague.
On a few drivers with some tire spin, a bit of a stack up, and Clampett missed the shift.
Logan Clampett misses the shift and is going to spin all the way around to try and get back on the racetrack, but he's well out of the lead, I believe. Live timing and scoring has him around 30th, and it's going to bring a whole new host of characters to the front of this race, Justin.
I was about to say, a majority of the drivers up front stayed out under the caution. Clampett was one of them. The only driver who tried that call who survived that incident without any damage, Blake Bottoms, who just lost the lead to Buttafuoco.
He was the leader, but I don't even think he held it for a lap, as we'll get a look at what happened to Logan Clampett momentarily. Down in the bottom right portion of your screen, you'll see them all take off, and yep, right there you can see the contact. Completely missed the shift, spins around, and there were a few other trucks that went with him. I think that might have been Reese Baham out of Auburn, who also ended up in trouble. Meanwhile, here comes Omar Diallo in second, trying to wrest it away from Michael Colson, and maybe, just maybe, go after Buttafuoco for the race lead.
And of course, Buttafuoco with a lot of eNASCAR experience on the various platforms. This is huge for him. And was speaking with him before tonight's action, he had a lot of emphasis and focus on trying to build on the success of last time out. Because remember, he was a contender at Daytona back in February. He's looking strong on the ovals. And when it comes to Speedway racing, James, that's his specialty.
Was a podium finisher at Daytona. We got the chance to speak to him after the race, but I know he'd like to come away with $3,000 in scholarship money by evening's end, as we're going to take a good look at everybody moving. This is Thomas Toomey out of the University of Virginia in Charlottesville, the Cavalier, riding in the 19th position, just behind the University of Toronto at Scarborough Truck. That 7 machine of Anthony Keys.
And I always find it interesting with how high that wheel is with comparison to where he's sitting, but it works for him. And when you find something that works, you'll end up finding some good pace. And keep in mind, already have 8 spots from where he's qualified, and he's got one of the clean trucks that is currently in the mix to trying to find out where to go with the 3 wide in front.
That is a bit of a problem, right? You'd like to try and find some clean air in front of your truck. The problem is that there's not a lot of it, but look in the middle of all of that, the 92 machine of Liam Sheen. And oh, by the way, Steven Wilson, we talked about him earlier, got caught up in that first incident, already up into this group and knocking on the door of the top 10 with only 23 laps in the books.
He also did take 2 tires under the last caution flag to get some track position. And the thing is, there is a sweet spot to that. You end up having a difference of about 5, maybe up to 10 laps in some tracks. You can make 2 tires work. However, it can make you much more looser long run. So in our words, for Wilson, he needs a caution to be able to get himself on equal footing tires possibly.
One of those cases where you have to play the strategy a bit to get the track position. That's exactly what Steven Wilson's done. And even though he's got some damage to the front end of his University of Iowa Ford F-150, if you're in the draft, it doesn't necessarily matter all that much. So long as another truck is poking the hole through the air for you, you can maintain pace with the trucks that you're running around. You just have to make sure you're not the first truck in line so the air doesn't completely wash over your damaged nose if you're Steven Wilson.
And that's the tough balance, right, is making sure to overcome that with how you drive, but also not overdriving it. And you'll see with some of the onboards here, with the 57 in particular, who also was amongst those staying out after damage repair from the first caution, he's also losing ground with the older tires.
He is indeed. This is Alex Hallinar, currently in 22nd at a Binghamton University in New York, and just trying to hang on for the track position, but he's one of the handful of drivers who just doesn't quite have the pace of some of the other trucks. This will slide over to Wyatt Harvey from Butler University out of Indianapolis, Indiana. He's just up the track in the 18th position, also looking for a little bit more track position. But Harvey was one of the chunks that came in some 11 laps ago under that last yellow, so he's got slightly fresher tires.
He's also racing, as you see in the background, from an esports hub at the campus, and just shows the rise of esports at the university campuses to have this facility to race at amongst your fellow students while studying at university. Very focused, you can tell, with that respective setup right now, and very comfortable, it seems, with the steering wheel.
We now shuffle to the 92 machine of Liam Sheen, the University of Wisconsin Stevens Point driver, who does have a little bit more breathing space. He's just on the edge of the top 10 in 11th, but you can see the difference just clearly looking off the hood and off the nose of his truck. A lot more room to roam and a lot less traffic up in front. A few more places to sort of dictate where you want your truck to go and what line you want to run.
It's also critical to make sure you end up finding the right choice to bounce about. Hippity-hop your way past some of the trucks, per se. But with Budafuco, keep in mind, he's still battling hard for second. You see how laser-focused the eyes are, especially with the Ole Miss truck on the outside trying to make the move.
Look at the move there from Michael Causey out of Oxford, Mississippi, in the University of Mississippi. The Rebels out of the Southeastern Conference now rolling that high line to try and take away the race lead.
Very nerve-wracking, especially for those maybe like Colson Phelps, the Iowa State University driver. Currently in 6th, just waiting in the line in the popcorn seat and just trying a different line of notice, trying to get some clean air with a wider arc on entry. It can affect a bit of your tire wear, but just seems to be working from comfortably. For now is the key word. How that matters long run will be critical.
I wouldn't necessarily think that this would be a time where you'd want to push the issue, Justin, because if we do end up under a long green flag run, you'll just burn off the tires. You won't have any pace in, call it 20 or 30 laps or so. So I would think a lot of these drivers are just being mindful, being careful at this moment. Yes, you want to race, of course, but I wouldn't think you'd want to be racing as if it were maybe the last 10, the last 5 laps or so as we go back to the battle for P11, led by Liam Sheen and Brett Suggs from High Point University.
Yeah, and you see them settling out, keep in mind. But the thing is, when it comes to some of the drivers, remember, in a lot of cases, it's not just the balance with the virtual racing side of things with schooling, but real-world racing. Brett Suggs, the name familiar, for example, James, who we've seen in the past for the virtual world, who also has worked in a lot of different aspects of the real world, including the marketing side of things with various drivers across the Southeast.
He's done a lot. He's a marketing guy, much knowing. He's a race car driver, Brett Suggs. He's also a driver in the eNASCAR College iRacing Series, powered by NACE Starleague. And you want to talk about another organization, another university that's putting some resources into esports. This group at High Point definitely trying to invest in the Panthers. We go back here, though, up towards the front. This is Jack Painter out of the University of North Carolina at Wilmington, the Seahawks, and Daniel Budafuco making moves.
Meanwhile, Nick Robinson, we've seen him avoid trouble earlier in the ECU trunk. That purple and gold machine also just in the spot where you can just maintain patience, just wait to see if any holes fall up, and just pass the drivers who are over-aggressive. For example, Painter, we see him try the top a few moments ago. He's now paying the price for burning up those tires with that right front in particular, looking like he's getting tight. And Robinson, you can see with the tiny smirk, knows that's a spot.
Moving from Nick Robinson, we'll go further around in the field to Christina Ryan, currently in 23rd, representing the University of Ohio in Athens, Ohio. And you take a look here at some of the onboards that we've had. There are a lot of drivers who have a lot of different setups, Justin, and that's part of the beauty of iRacing. Yes, we have some drivers who are running with virtual reality headsets, but Christina's just got a monitor and a headset, wheel, pedals ready to go. And there are plenty of famous stories about how you don't necessarily have to break the bank in order to find speed. Talent is talent, and it will come through. You just need to make sure that you've got the equipment that you need. And if you want to potentially join this series or any of the other official racing in iRacing, and if you want more information on how to start your iRacing career, you can log on to iRacing.com today. A lot of fun, Justin, to get on the service.
It absolutely is, especially when you find the right grouping of competitors to race against. This grouping of competitors looks very anxious, though. We've seen it a bit with Christina Ryan when we first jumped on board. They've been going 2 to 3 wide with a bit of checkups, and keep in mind some of the drivers in this pack are those who are involved in a couple of the cautions and are driving with hampered trucks damage-wise.
Lots of battling here in the middle of the pack. You've got Butler, Virginia, Ohio, so many different groups. Oh, and the University of Iowa, too. There's Stephen Wilson up towards the front. Not like we forgot about him. Connor Shong, actually, is the first truck ahead of everybody here.
And what did I say about the 2-tire call? It's a big gamble. If you get a long run, it ends up backfiring towards that mark. But when it comes to Hall, he is a part of Massachusetts Maritime Academy, trying to make them proud from the state of Massachusetts, James, and he's looked pretty solid so far, up 8 spots. Of course, know the tradition when it comes to that respective program.
Also of note here, another piece in the setups that I think is worth mentioning. There are a lot of folks that, and especially, we know the college lifestyle. It isn't necessarily the most glamorous per se, but there are a lot of folks who literally will just take their wheels and clamp them up to their desks. A lot of the wheels will come in with built-in clamp systems where if you've got a good table edge, all you need is that little lip, and you can crank some screws and get your wheel tight to your desk and go. Again, it doesn't take a full-on seat. It doesn't take a Formula 1 style cockpit or something. You just need a chair and a table and a wheel, and that's all you really need in order to make it happen.
As well, on the top of things, if you say have a roommate, have supportive roommates who allow you to race as you compete for, in some cases, several hours per night. But with Santiago Tierras, you have to be thinking about what is going through his mind after qualifying well with one of the top drivers in the time attacks, and he's in 16th, especially knowing how much he wants to see esports on the college campuses.
And especially given that this is his home track for anybody at the University of North Carolina in Charlotte. Meanwhile, here's Logan Clampett trying to rebound after the wheel spin issue he had, the missed shift on that restart. The Saddleback College driver still in 30th and at this point needs a yellow flag just to help punch this field back up. He's got pace. The lap times are good, but the track position is so poor at this point because he had to spin and then loop himself around to get himself back going again. It's going to take a little bit of an intervention for him to get back in the fight.
You can almost see it with his face, thinking somebody's got to bring a caution out eventually. And keep in mind, he moved back to California in October after spending time in North Carolina. He's talked about an eNASCAR competition, looking to try and build up credits to transfer to university. Speaking of universities, University of Toronto Scarborough, top 10 right now. Anthony Keys, very clean, we'll say. He's been one of the more solid movers from the mid-pack onward, just keeping to his business right now. From the GTA.
I'm about to say a GTA, a place that you would know very well, since I guess you count as part of that in a very general sense. Just not terribly far away in Windsor, yeah?
It's 3 hours away.
Okay, maybe a little bit further. Fair enough. All right. But in either case, we'll go back to this battle for P9 and move away from the Canadian driver, and we'll slide to this battle with Jack Painter and Liam Sheen. And looks like we've got more company in the form of Matt Kemp up there, too.
And looking at the pace that they've been having so far, the fall-off is around what we were expecting based on past races here with Charlotte with the trucks. About 2 seconds for a majority of the pack. Sheen's amongst those running within the ballpark, the race leaders, but they're losing about a tenth or two per lap on average. And that's the tough thing. Not only do you have to pass drivers with damage like Doyle, but you also have to think about a green flag pit stop for some of these drivers. Because those who have tried strategy gambles, they've had to come in already, I've noticed, like Blake Bottoms. These drivers will eventually have to figure out how they're going to navigate that entry, communicate that properly without giving away said strategy, and then make sure you don't hit the wall on said entry to make sure you don't get significant damage or speeding penalty.
Look at Christina Ryan in the battle that she finds herself in. This is 18th, so Connor Shong is there. Thomas Toomey is there. Officially, we've got a lot of drivers beginning to shuffle. A few coming down pit road, but good battles across the board and a lot of side-by-side racing, little clusters, which is impressive, but I think it also speaks to the raciness of these trucks, even though we're 30 laps into the run for those drivers as we go back up to the battle for 5th.
Yeah, Castro's starting to feel a bit of impact on the tire wear, also has a touch bit of damage. Right now, they're running about a tenth or so on average. In fact, a couple of hundreds back of the race leaders, and also having to take drivers who have damage, who were involved in the earlier incident, 3 wide. Not going to be easy, but I want to give a shout out to Cause. He spoke with his father earlier today, who is on a full scholarship for engineering, had won 2 New Orleans-based go-kart championship titles, Nolan go-kart titles, 2 times in the nation, top rankings for Legends cars. His father, keep in mind, with experience at the ASA level back in the 90s and 2000s. So a lot of history when it comes to the driver of that machine tonight from Ole Miss.
Racing running in the family, just like it tends to do with universities and colleges at some point as well. Also worth noting, just as I'm looking at timing and scoring, that these drivers are about a second and a half off of their fastest lap times in the race. Most drivers have a fast lap anywhere from 30.6 to 30.9 seconds. Most of these drivers are running 32.3s to 32.4s. So that's tire fall off within the span of 30 laps as we get a good look at the 52 of Jack Coyne.
And you see right now, he's just choosing to stay up at the top line because he knows he's a lap down, he knows he's got damage, and knows there are several drivers trying to sort things out in the battle for the race lead, hence why he's trying to maintain patience. Chris Fritz, meanwhile, he's focusing on the VR, and it's very important to make sure you stay cool, hence why the fan is facing his direction.
Big-time VR driver is Chris Fritz out of the University of Delaware. Blue Hens represented in tonight's field for eNASCAR College iRacing Series. He's a sophomore at the University of Delaware, majoring in communication, as we slide over to Matt Kemp, who currently holds the 10th position.
And so far for him, I've been impressed from the Siena Heights University driver for the Saints. Amongst those also following keys on forward, 20 positions gained, keep in mind. He's actually running in the ballpark compared to most of the race leaders, so he's got potentially top 8-5 pace. We'll see how things fare out for him the rest of the run.
Moving on to Hagen Johnson representing Clemson University, the Tigers, and lots of clean racetrack, but that would be because he just came down pit road, I believe, so he's got plenty of space. As your leader of the race is in Justin Omar Diallo now down pit road.
About 34 laps, so essentially keeping it simple. 30 laps to get to the end of the set of tires. More pit calls expected over the radio, so these drivers will have to start planning things out. How do drivers like Budafuoco or Austin Farr try and respond? We'll see. Keep in mind, for drivers like them, they have more space compared to the packs of, say, Christina Ryan and several others.
And so now you have a decision to make if you're Budafuoco, if you're Farr, if you're Castro, anybody in that group, because you can either respond to what Omar Diallo just did and maintain your run and effectively be even on pace with him, or you could wait and see if we get a yellow flag and potentially trap Diallo a lap down. It could be very, very interesting to see how these drivers play this out as we get a good look on board the volunteer Austin Farr's machine. He is going to follow Daniel Budafuoco from Rutgers University. They both will come down pit road as we enter the final 30 laps of this visit Myrtle Beach 120.
And both of them entering their pit marks nice and smoothly. Fair amount of confidence from both of them in the entry, and that can win you races, as we've talked about in the past. You end up having a strong entry, it can be the difference of about 3 seconds on track compared to somebody who backs up their entry and doesn't quite have that same feel for the brakes to make sure they get in as quick as they can. That's going to be so critical for some of these drivers that they really want to make sure they maintain.
So now the onus of decision-making will fall on your new race leader as we work this cycle of green flag pit stops. It's now Andre Castro from UChicago that is in control of all of this, out in front of Michael Conzi from Ole Miss by about, call it, 2 seconds or so. But again, these drivers, if they come down now, they're going to give up a little bit of time to the Diallos and the Budafuocos and the Farrs. Just with the way pit stops work, you come in a little bit earlier than everyone else, you're going to gain a few tenths on folks, even if your tires are a little bit older. But Castro's going to decide to stay out.
Yeah, and this is also, keep in mind, a very treacherous pit exit where if you end up making mistakes on that apron, James, keep in mind, you end up having the potential of hitting towards the inside walls or having yourself snap around. That's something drivers are going to have to also be careful of, because with so many laps turned around, you accidentally pull up that apron, you end up getting unsafe pit exit penalty, and or you might end up snapping yourself towards the inside. So that's something you gotta all remember. I wouldn't be surprised, though, with some of the drivers we see them go as far as possible and hope for caution for some cases here and pin the field laps down.
Good look at Brandon Mckissick's truck here as we remind you of what these drivers are racing for this evening. Again, giving out $13,500 in scholarship money over the course of 3 races in the spring in this eNASCAR College iRacing Series powered by NACE Starleague. $4,500 per event, with $3,000 going to the winner, $1,000 going to second place, and third picking up $500. So 4 figures of scholarship money tonight. But again, the thought of being able to race for your tuition in the sim is the just craziest thing, but it's so awesome. It's something where if I had the opportunity to do it when I was in school, Justin, I absolutely would have jumped at the chance. Not that I would have been any good, but I at least would have tried.
I would have tried as well, to be honest, and to be forward, I am also studying for a bachelor's degree, but it's also to where if this came 10 years ago, it's crazy how much things have progressed in terms of the virtual to reality path, but also the sim racing side in general with the realism. And it's to where you have a lot of drivers be able to lead their schools now, such as a Liam Sheen or a Brandon Mckissick, and be that driver who says, okay, let's lead this campus forward and build things on forward as a program, such as that. And we've seen a lot of drivers be able to lead the charge with that, with this series throughout the spring.
One more look at Brandon Mckissick. We'll slide over to Framingham, Massachusetts. Ryan Doucette, who comes to us courtesy of the University of Southern Maine, where he's a junior majoring in mechanical engineering. Plenty of pace on that truck. And again, another driver who has raced at the highest levels of eNASCAR before. So another driver who you would think knows how to get it done when crunch time arrives, Justin.
He's also someone, as we both know, is not afraid to take risks. He's amongst those who I've seen try 2-tire calls and hope that they work in qualifying action to make sure he makes it and stays at the highest levels. He's amongst those trying to really stretch it, keep in mind significant damage. He's going to need the caution, to be quite frank, right now, as well as a couple of the others, especially if you're the 90, because if this doesn't work out, then you end up putting yourself at risk of not even staying in the lead lap by the time you're at the pit.
We go back to this battle. This is Brandon Mckissick and Colson Phelps out of Iowa State University. Colson is a junior who also is majoring in mechanical engineering. Sounds like a bit of a theme there, Justin. A lot of engineers in this field of the eNASCAR College iRacing Series, but good move there. Worth noting that both of these drivers have come down pit road already, and as far as the ones that we're waiting for, really it's just the top 4. Andre Castro, Santiago Tires, Ryan Doucette, and Steven Wilson have yet to pit. They're all working somewhere in the ballpark of 40-plus lap runs on their tires. Everybody else has already come down pit road for service. We'll see whether or not some of the charges make their way to this battle, but a lot of varying differences in speed, and you see it right here on your screen. Here's your leader, Andre Castro, and you see all of these trucks who are officially a lap down, but on the fresh tires, you can see just how much quicker they are than the UChicago driver right now.
Castro win in clean space, about 32.7s right now. The drivers who have already pit, 31.2s. That's about a second and a half difference, and that doesn't factor in the amount of drivers he has to let on by. And that's also an art form too, where you end up catching up to somebody too quick. You end up putting yourself at risk of ending up having contact. Meanwhile, for Keys, he's looking to jump up a few more spots, take advantage of 12.
Could potentially take advantage of the battle. Here is Keys. We'll try and go after Kemp for the position, and then Blake Bottoms and Liam Sheen up there. The flip side also of the strategy that we mentioned just a few moments ago, Daniel Buttafuoco is the first of those drivers. So Steven Wilson is going to come down pit road. That leaves us with 3 drivers at the front of this field on the old tires. And now Omar Diallo, who sits in 4th, is the first of the drivers on the fresh tires, followed by Buttafuoco and Farr and Mckissick. So once this cycles out, if we get a green flag all the way through here, Justin, it's going to be roughly the same cast of characters leading this race.
And as Wilson makes his way to the pit stall, It's going to be very important for Diallo to manage the traffic quickly. You see right there, he just took driver's offset 3 wide, for example. Right now, got a second and a half or so cushion over Buttafuoco. But Buttafuoco, when Buttafuoco's in clean space, is running a tenth of a second quicker. The more traffic Diallo reaches, though, and has to check up for, and the less that Buttafuoco has to do in turn, the more chance for 13. Keep in mind, he's already catching up to Ryan Doucette for a spot on track. That's how quickly the fresh tires are compared to some with the damage and old tires.
And that would be for position, by the way. That would be Doucette not having come down pit road yet. That would be Diallo making the move to the inside and making it look relatively easy. So no contest there. Move Omar Diallo up to third, and it would be, I believe, Buttafuoco next in line to try and catch after Doucette. You see just on the edge of the screen there. So Buttafuoco's within touching distance of Omar Diallo, but it's just enough to where Diallo's got just a hair of a cushion. The trick, though, is going to be making sure that you avoid these groups of 2 and 3 trucks. We saw it on the onboard just a few moments ago from Diallo, how you could have no lap traffic in front of you, say, for maybe 2 or 3 trucks, but if they're all running 3 wide, this track is narrow enough here at Charlotte Motor Speedway that you don't really have anywhere to go. You end up getting stuck behind them, and you lose the advantage that you gained on pit road with the wonderful pit stop that Diallo had.
Especially with Buttafuoco nearly 1 second behind now, as we still see Castro going the furthest. Again, we've seen 55 laps. Doucette just came in, so that leaves 2 going. And I think for Castro, for this to work, he has to keep on stretching it towards the final 10 laps or so, and that's the hope of, if there's trouble, that puts him in control of the race possibly. If there isn't, then he might not make it to the top 20.
This will be interesting here. We'll watch the margins and just see where it goes. Diallo's got it down to just under 15 seconds, and we've got just under 15 laps to go as Doucette comes down pit road. You see that on your screen. So if Castro can maintain that gap and only bleed about a second to Diallo and company, because Santiago Gutierrez is yet to come down pit road too, you would assume that Diallo would make that pass for, say, green. But if that gap can be managed, this could get interesting. The other thing that could help Castro if he decides to stay out, this driver, Daniel Buttafuoco out of Rutgers University, may be battling with Diallo. That could slow them down. That could be the absolute best thing that could happen to Andre Castro.
And keep in mind, to emphasize one more time, the fuel estimate's up to 55, and that's the furthest anyone's gone. That was Logan Clampett. Keep in mind, it's also getting spicy for around currently 12th on track. Castro has just hit this time, though, James, so this will now be a battle for 11th. So two different pit stops, James, now. These are both of the drivers who are trying to stretch it for the caution. They don't get it. The battle for the win, Diallo and Buttafuoco now.
Indeed, Castro from Chicago and Tires from the University of North Carolina at Charlotte come in, and that leaves Diallo and Buttafuoco to battle for the race lead. So it's our main strategy that we'll be watching as we hit the closing stages of this Visit Myrtle Beach 120. And it's now down to Diallo, Buttafuoco, Farr, Mckissick, and Colson Phelps, your top 5.
And with clean track ahead for Diallo, that's going to be helpful for him at least. Here's the thing, Buttafuoco's coming in quickly. 2/10 gain last time. Here he goes.
Buttafuoco's had pace since these drivers have come out of pit road. He's got the fresher tires by 2 laps over Umar Diallo. So now, if you're Buttafuoco, where do you go in all of this? And how do you play this to try and get the race lead? Answer Justin Prince is to go right down to the bottom of turn 3 and potentially wrap this battle up now.
Diallo trying to give a bit of space. Just too tight. He had to check up.
Could not pinch Daniel Buttafuoco down, and the Rutgers Scarlet Knights now lead the Visit Myrtle Beach 120 of the eNASCAR College iRacing Series, powered by NACE Starleague, and Diallo's going to have to find a way to battle back, but does he have the pace, Justin?
That's going to be the tough thing for the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee machine. Just looking like he's a little bit tighter now compared to what Buttafuoco's been able to do, but the big counterpoint, did Buttafuoco use up that difference on tires to catch up to the 23? Will that switch into Diallo's way with under 10 to go?
And on top of all that, if they start getting into a battle, what does that do for Austin Farr, who you can see just on the edge of your screen there, that first truck right behind Diallo on the racetrack, the black and orange University of Tennessee in Knoxville, the Volunteers truck. If they start battling for the race lead, Farr can potentially reel this group in, and that's kind of what he's done. That gap's come down to about, call it a second or so, and he's bringing a little bit of company with him.
And you see with Farr in particular, 32 flat last time by. He's continuing to close on in this time. Another 10 picked up. So that gap is closing and quickly. But is there enough time if it stays green? That's the tough thing. Only half a tenth gain per corner or so on average.
Is there enough time? Indeed, it's a very, very big question right now. 1.2 seconds to the race lead for Farr. He'll need somewhere in the ballpark of about 0.2 a lap in order to have a viable shot at this. He's got Logan Clampett, who's hold down the running order after the missed restart. But Clampett's there, just hanging off the back of Alston Farr. These two trying to draw your race leaders in. The problem is that Farr is now losing time. It's up to 1.3 seconds. That's not the direction you want to see the interval marker go in, Justin.
I think Diallo's just burned up too much right front tire, trying to get around some of the traffic, but also that difference in terms of laps. Coming back into Buttafuoco's direction. Just not enough laps left for them to equalize back out, I think, but it's still a long way to go. Anything can happen with 6 to go.
All about managing pressure, I think, more than anything else. Now, I think that's something that, and especially with a lot of points you made, Justin, that Daniel Buttafuoco is used to because he has experience at a high level of iRacing and of eNASCAR. So it won't be a shocker to him, but you can see how focused he is, just taking a look at whatever celebrity he's got available to him, just keeping a note of the numbers as we roll into the final 5 laps of the Visit Myrtle Beach 120.
And keep in mind, he's been preparing for this race as well as eNASCAR World Tour qualifying iRacing Series action while trying to take midterms and writing papers for class at Rutgers. That is a lot to manage as a person, to say the very least. As some have put it, there's limited time in the day. But the main thing that's helped Buttafuoco all day and all night long in this race, being consistent, being patient. He's been consistent, he's been patient, and he continues to stare at that camera.
And it's just the little differences, just like it is in real life. We've seen Buttafuoco be faster by maybe 1/10 or 2/10, and it hasn't been much. He hasn't been that much faster than everybody else. But when you do that consistently over a 20, a 30, a 40, a 50 lap period, that adds up. It makes the difference more often than not. It could be what puts Buttafuoco in victory lane if he can hang out for these next 4 laps as we go back on board with Diallo, who's trying to run him down still, but there's a big smile on his face. I can't tell if that's a smile of reservation or a smile of just having fun or a good little wave there. So he certainly knows he's on television.
Pretty sure that's out of the Steven Wilson playbook, but you can tell he's very happy to be in this position, be this strong, showcase his speed at this high level. It's just a matter of just couldn't keep up with the tire wear difference after the difference on the undercut. And now, Buttafuoco's coming up to 2 laps to go, just a couple trucks ahead. Other than that, clean space to the end.
Incidentally, 2 laps is the difference between the tires on Buttafuoco and Diallo. Buttafuoco came in, he's on a 27-lap run, which will be 29 at the end. Diallo came in 29 laps ago. As we go back to the battle for 7th, this is Anthony Keys and the 71 machine of Nick Robinson from East Carolina. So University of Toronto, Scarborough, and East Carolina fighting for spots late in the going.
And from what I've seen in the backdrop as well, they've had a couple close calls with contact, but as they get ready to come to the white flag here, Keys, stellar drive. Robinson, even more stellar, up 24 spots amongst one of the biggest movers.
It is all about Daniel Buttafuoco, though. Half a lap to go before he comes across the line. Just has to make sure he doesn't make any sort of mistakes whatsoever through the middle of turns 3 and 4. Clean exit there for the corners, and it'll be Daniel Buttafuoco with a smile on his face. The East Brunswick, New Jersey driver racing for Rutgers University wins the Visit Myrtle Beach 120 and wins the 2nd round of this eNASCAR College iRacing Series powered by NACE Starleague as they all come across the line and battle for positions at the end.
Liam Sheen holding off drivers for 11th on back. The Real, give him a big shout out. 22 spots gained, one of the biggest movers. And that green and orange machine. Santiago Torres, who was expected to be contender throughout the night, what could have been just 20th place at the end. Expect him to fight strong, though, in the future across the NASCAR.
However, tonight is all about Daniel Buttafuoco, who's bringing $3,000 in scholarship money back to Rutgers, the State University of New Jersey, as he burns it down and provides us with our Coca-Cola winning moment, which is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of eNASCAR. That is a power slide if I've seen one. Almost I feel like I've seen Harvick do that a few times, where you don't necessarily make the donuts, although now he's going to the circles, but you sort of just drag the brake a bit and just go in a straight line and burn it down that way. I haven't seen that all that often in recent memory, but I do enjoy that particular style of bringing up the weekend.
Do you blame him? The biggest stage he's won at in the NASCAR competition in years. Absolutely incredible run for Daniel Buttafuoco. Consistency pays off for the Rutgers University-based driver.
A masterclass in how to run the trucks, the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series in iRacing, as Buttafuoco brings home the $3,000 for Rutgers as your race winner in this Visit Myrtle Beach 120 Round 2 for the eNASCAR College iRacing Series powered by NACE Starleague. Umar Diallo will bring back $1,000 to the University of Wisconsin at Milwaukee. He finishes second, and $500 going back to Knoxville, Tennessee, as the University of Tennessee's Austin Farr volunteered his time and will bring the Volunteers a little bit of money as a result. Brandon Mckissick came home in fourth for Florida Atlantic. Matt Kemp in P5. Colson Phelps, Iowa State P6. Nick Robinson for East Carolina in seventh. Anthony Keys from the University of Toronto at Scarborough in eighth. Jack Painter from UNC Wilmington ninth. And Francisco Villarreal brings it home at the end of the top 10.
Liam Sheen finished in the 11th spot tonight, right in front of Alex Kolonix. Difference about 1/10 of a second. Brett Suggs in 13th, with Blake Bottoms after his strategy gamble, holding on to a top 15 run in front of Thomas Toomey. Then Christina Ryan had to check up for some of the trouble early, but she ends up finishing 16th. Andre Castro's gamble, he did hold on to the top 20 on the bright side. The downside, he didn't get the caution he wanted. He finishes 17th after being up front early. Carter Sean finishing 8th, with John Hall and Santiago Torres rounding out your top 20.
Nicholas Short was 21st this evening. 22nd was Will Farmer. Tyler Glass came home in 23rd, and Wyatt Harvey finished in 24th. Alex Hallinar brought it home 25th this evening. 26th went to Logan Clampett. Ryan Doucette brought the 77 home in 27th. 28th went to Chris Fritz. Jack Coyne finished in 29th, and Aiden Doyle completed the top 30.
Stephen Wilson, Trey Normile, Hagen Johnson, Christopher Sciella, along with Michael Causey after an issue off the pit lane. Colton Salick, along with Reese Bayham, Derek Jennings, Connor Okrezik, rounded out the field tonight.
Time to talk to our race winner, Justin Prince. You are alongside the Rutgers Scarlet Knight, the New Jersey native. Daniel Buttafuoco goes a few spots better, wins tonight, and he gets the honor of talking to us from Victory Lane.
Daniel, you came so close at Daytona last time out. Had to battle with damage there. Tonight, though, at Charlotte, you end up leading to the checker flag. How does it feel to be an eNASCAR College iRacing Series powered by NACE Starleague winner?
I don't even know where to begin. Wow, that's incredible. It's an incredible feeling. Really shocked by qualifying. It wasn't the best lap for me, so we started third. But if anything, that was good. The farther up I started, the better off I was. I could just, was in a better spot. I could relax a little bit, save my tires here or there. And then cautions kept happening, and I just tried to pit when I could, when it was smart, when it was the right time to pit, because we had an unlimited choice of tires. And then made the right call there. Omar passed me, and then I just was trying to ride behind him. Then there's two guys who really weren't saving their tires, which was super annoying to deal with. And then once I got around them, I was running down Omar, and then the pit cycles happened, and I didn't have the best in lap. And then getting through traffic, we were really good. And then I think within like 10 to go, I got around Omar on the inside there. And then, from then on, I think we just saved our tires a little bit better. Car felt really good there. On a long run, it wasn't too tight. Well, actually, it was kind of tight, but I was able to make it a little loose on the long run, and we were able to use that grip, rear rotation to our advantage, and get home the dub.
And just curious, in terms of that reeling in process to get up to Diallo, keep in mind you had to make up a couple seconds at least with him going for the 2-lap undercut call. What was that like trying to close up, trying to manage the traffic where he was impacted a bit more, we'll say, compared to what you dealt with?
Yeah, I would say he definitely, I was talking to him right before I came in here, and I would say that he was definitely impacted the most rather than me. He just caught him at the wrong points, whereas I got a little lucky getting through traffic. But I saw the gap there. I didn't have the best, I guess. So when you stay out longer, I'm going to be disadvantaged. I'm going to end up farther behind him. And I saw it was 3.2 seconds, and I knew that was a really challenging gap to close. And at first, it started to level off really early, and then after a while, I think keep being smooth in the tires really helped me. And then I was able to reel him in, a 10th a lap. And then from then on, we were just closing in, trying to be patient, not overdrive entrance, not overdrive center or exit, just make sure that I was keeping it on the blue line. And that was a really good race. And before I go, I want to say a big thank you to everybody over at Rutgers for letting me represent them in this series. All the proud partners, CSL Esports for running this great series, my mom for making my paint scheme, a former Rutgers alum, and all you guys in the booth for a great broadcast. And it's an honor to be here. So we won Road to Pro last week, and then we win College Series at Charlotte this week. It's a incredible past week. It's been insane.
Congratulations once again on the victory, Daniel. Daniel Buttafuoco comes away with a victory in eNASCAR College iRacing Series competition. Omar Diallo was the driver who finished in second tonight. And Omar, what was the feeling for you in the truck? You did take the time to wave hello a couple times, but in the end, the 2-lap undercut just couldn't hold on with Buttafuoco closing in.
Yeah, I pit 2 laps early, and I think my entry wasn't as good as I wanted it to be. I was just taking it easy, and then, we might have driven the right front off there the last run, and Daniel caught us, but we'll still take second place. I mean, that's still, I think, $1,000 in scholarship, so all wasn't lost.
Talk about the feel of trying to continue to stay up towards the front, because it seemed early there was a bit of swapping back and forth for the lead, but it was also at the same time the give and take factor with the strategies coming into play for those who pit under the cautions and those who tried to stay out.
Yeah, I knew on that restart where there were 3 cars that stayed out, I think it was going to be real hairy, and I think Clampett missed a shift, which made our jobs a lot easier because we didn't have to pass those guys at speed. But yeah, I mean, it was just a lot of people were saving tires, and you had people that weren't saving tires, and we're all on top of each other. And when that happens, you usually get a lot of hitting and a lot of crashes. So just had to be calm and collected to get through that.
How big is this finish for you in terms of helping with your schooling, knowing that you're part of the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee and a freshman in biology? How big is this to help you with your schooling?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to get into med school and stuff like that, so obviously I'm going to have to take out a lot of loans, and that's like extra money that I don't have to take out, so it helps a lot. And I just want to thank iRacing and CSL for putting this on. This helps a lot of people, so this is a great thing that's happening here.
Especially with some of the connections you've built up. A very stellar run, to say the very least, from you, Omar. Again, congratulations.
Thanks.
Diallo coming away with the second place run tonight. Austin Farr, he's built up a great following across his sim racing career. The University of Tennessee driver finished in third. Austin, talk us through your night as you had to scratch and claw your way to this third, up 17 spots.
Well, I know I didn't have the pace to win. I just wanted to be in the right position to finish well. And I know that, I have to thank a lot of the guys that were farther back in the field, because all those problems happened up front and everybody was able to get slowed down. And luckily, that played, I'll admit, it played a big part of me finishing where I did.
Of course, the Vols with a lot of experience when it comes to sim racers in terms of who's made it towards the higher levels. Talk us through the support you've had with the University of Tennessee for tonight's action and for the series.
It's actually been really great racing for these guys, because I'm like kind of the first student to kind of do it through the sim racing route, and the whole club has been very supportive and kind of using me as a guinea pig to see what works and what doesn't in terms of club exposure. And I'm just glad I could be that guy and finish this high up and get him that much exposure.
Thank you again very much for the time, Austin. Congrats on the podium.
Thanks, guys.
Austin Farr rounds out the top 3 tonight, James. Back to you.
A big, big night. One more night this spring of racing in the eNASCAR College iRacing Series powered by NACE Starleague. It comes to us from the road course at Watkins Glen International. Our next broadcast will be April 27th at 8 p.m. Eastern. You can head to enascar.com/live to catch the final round of action this spring for the eNASCAR College iRacing Series powered by NACE Starleague. For all of our partners at eNASCAR and NACE Starleague, and for the team at iRacing to help make this broadcast possible, Drew Adamson, Sean Ambrose, Alex Horn, Tyler Hudson, we were Joe Peak, Tyler Maxson, Blake McCandless, Joe McManus, Cisco Scaramouche, Travis Sullenberger, Corey Vervinch, all the folks at iRacing that helped make it happen, along with Joe Peak and Josh Lee, Joe McManus, and Alex Horn, and my colleague in the booth, Justin Prince. I am James Pike. Thanks so much for watching the Visit Myrtle Beach 120. We will see you in April from Watkins Glen. Congratulations.